United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Father, thank you for this evening. Thank you for a good back-to-school night. And I just pray that you will help us through decisions that we have to make tonight to be the best for our students and our community and our teachers. I pray for safe start to our school Thursday. Please just watch over all of our students and staff. In your name we pray. Amen. All right, we're going to start with our approval of our agenda that's in front of you. We don't have any additions or changes. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the approval of our minutes, and we have several of them sent to us. Hope you had a chance to take a look at those. We have June 25th, our executive session, July 1st, our executive session, July 2nd, executive session, July 8th, our regular meeting, July 9th, our executive session, July 23rd, we had our special session, and then July 29th, we had executive session minutes. Is there any discussion, corrections about those minutes? All right, if not, we'll need a motion to approve the minutes from those meetings. Motion to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Next, we have our public comments. We have 3 people signed in, so we'll have 5 minutes for each of those people to speak. I think Mike will be timing and Mr. Lehman to kind of give you, if you need an update of how long you have left, they will do that for you. Just as a reminder, there's no direct question answer time during public comment. It's for us to listen to what you have on your mind, and no names, no naming people can be during that time either. We are going to go ahead and start and just go down the list. Jason Broom, you have the floor.
I'd like to recap the recent email that we sent the board administration to follow up last email that was sent previously in July, just to address some of the things that have come up since then. There was somewhat discrepancy was presented at I believe the June board meeting as to whether GPA or student resume matters more for a student graduating, entering college specifically, regardless of which is correct. I'd like to reiterate there that class rank recognition is not heard of, and therefore can continue to be recognized without any consequence for a student. We also believe that the administration guidance should have to bear the burden of proof to show the community specifically any applications of real life instances where it has hurt the student to write or report their class rank. And even if it does indeed hurt some that help others, is it ethical to take away that advantage if somebody earned it? 3 pathways were briefly mentioned at the last meeting for a modification from the city of Indiana. Employment and voluntary enlistment. But even if we're asking students to more formally declare they plan on employment or enlistment, these 3 choices have always existed. There's no reason the formal recognition of these choices by a student means that we need to take away class rank and valedictorian exclusion. Unfortunately, I would like to bring up the communication on this issue has been school board agendas are incomplete and unclear, including the agenda posted on the outside window tonight, and when they're posted online and they are not posted widely. Especially on changes of such consequence, we need more frequent and more clear communication on more widely used platforms. Since the last meeting, we have been approached multiple times with people expressing their support for our position on this issue. The public recognizes the importance of excellence in all areas of achievement. As we have brought up in the past, top athletes earn advantages based on their achievements despite any negative reactions from their competitors. Competition is a natural part of life. Every individual on this school board and employed by the school corporation obtained their position through a competitive process of either election or hiring. So obviously, there is no problem with competition in academics. All achievements at Adams Central should be celebrated, especially academic ones that are the very reason for the school's existence. We are once again asking the school board votes to keep the top 10 recognition and valedictorian and salutatorian speeches as part of the Adams Central graduation ceremony. We're also adding the cum laude system. You, as the acting Adams Central School Board, have an opportunity to set our school apart, even while other schools are discontinuing traditional academic recognition. AC can be the school who actually celebrates academic achievement instead of watering it down and making one more instance where hard work does not pay. We ask again, when did it become socially unacceptable to excel in academics? When did it become offensive to succeed? When did it become unfair to have an advantage if you were willing to put in the hard work and effort it took to get it?
Thank you, Jason. Next, Christy Ripper. Yeah, Christy.
Good evening. My name is Christy. Almost 4 years ago, I was in a similar situation, heartbreaking situation as the Smith family. I was frustrated, devastated, and confused about where to turn when my own child was assaulted on school grounds. My family and I spent countless hours, days, in meetings with the administration trying to make sense of what happened. We discussed what led up to the assault, how it was handled, and what could have been done moving forward. Despite our efforts, the school's response was frankly inadequate, dismissive, negligent, and deeply disappointing. Last month, each of you received folders filled with letters of more than 10 families who had similar experiences. I wrote one of those letters. I shared the ways the administration failed my child and my family. I'll be honest, I had hope. I thought maybe with the changes in leadership over the last few years, things have improved. But today, I could say I only trust one person in the current administration. I'll give you an example. Last year, my daughter and her friend were targeted by another student. This student was told her friend, and I quote, "You should go kill yourself, you're better off dead." These several threatening remarks, along with others. Once I found out, I told her to speak to the one administrator I still trust. To that person's credit, they handled the situation perfectly, and to my knowledge, that student received a 2-day suspension. But it has raised an important question to me. Why did that student receive a suspension when years ago my son's assailant was completing fair cross on the football field, or Miss London's assailant got a new time? Where is the consistency? Where is the accountability? And it brings me to my next question. Who holds the administration accountable? It was said in last month's meeting that the board doesn't issue punishments. It is your role to create policy, reviews of policy, and you act as the jury and cannot handle any punishment. You, the board, stated, "We hope that the administration is just doing their job." Why is it that the administration is not investigated, followed up on, or that current policy and procedures are implemented? So when the administration fails to execute these policies, where are the checks and balances? Under current policy 1200, under the school board, it expects all administrators to maintain high standards in their working relationships, provide professional leadership in the corporation and community, and in the performance of their duties, and to undersee, exercise due care to protect all the mental and physical safety of students, colleagues, and subordinates. So if it's not the board, is it the superintendent? I'm just curious who is failing our children right now. Which brings me to the next topic. Last month and during the 2 weeks ago, the budget was also raised. I asked this, if our students are leaving the district, what does this do to our budget and the funding? This does not affect the amount of funding AC gets with fewer students at AC. We take pride in having students come from outside the district to come to AC. I withdrew my child from AC from everything that happened for many reasons, but the biggest was safety, or more accurately, the lack of it. If multiple students are withdrawing their children for any reason, shouldn't this be our top priority? They literally live 2 blocks from our school. Belmont just announced recently that the new online program, if AC cannot be trusted with the safety of our own students, I feel like this may be an ideal option for more parents, as the online schooling has been increased trend in this many years. Today, our youngest daughter still remains enrolled in Adams Central Middle School, and honestly, I fear for her well-being. Given the administration's long-standing pattern of inaction, we had to put our own safety plan in place just to protect her. As I said, I understand the board cannot respond to my questions here tonight, but last month, follow-up was next week. And I also will be seeing you next month as for a response of what is being said. I know names cannot be given, but just to know that something is being done would be appreciated. By simply saying we're looking into policy, I feel like this is not a reasonable response. 2 weeks ago, the board mentioned that accountability and consistency needed to be addressed. I feel like why after all this time are we just now getting to this point? Thank you.
It's about valedictorian, salutatorian recognition. We certainly want to see that recognition continue for the sake of the students, school, and the community. Being recognized for an achievement is a very human thing. All of us want to be recognized for the good that we do in the world. Anything can be the best wrestler, best basketball player, most points in a career, fastest track runner. Those things I just mentioned above encompass a season or one event that someone did well at. For a scholar to be recognized as a valedictorian, salutatorian is an accomplishment that takes 4 years to do. Certainly in athletics, there are athletes that perform well over a period of 4 years. For instance, in wrestling, someone could get better because they become a state or regional champ. Then they do get the recognition that newspaper gets, and the public and the school all get to celebrate in that student's accomplishment. When a wrestler wins state, all of us locally feel the effects of that win and how we know that student and help him support him, and maybe have a connection to him, which makes all the more human when we realize that the connection is much more important than just that kid winning the event. The same is true with academics. Most of us can only dream about being number 2 in the class. The idea of doing something consistent like this for 4 years and being at the top of the class is something that only happens to a very small percentage of high school students. It's very special to be a Val or a Sal. And the friends of that student love to gather around them, in this case, and celebrate with them, as they know that usually the Val Sal is also someone who may help them along the way. It's human nature to compete to see who's the best at what it is we're doing. We have speech meets to see who's the best at that particular art. We have music competitions. It's band or choir or performing group. We have swim meets. And these kids practice long and hard, try to be the best in their event. And when they're done, they get the trophy, the ribbon, the certificate, and most times their name is in the newspaper, school announcements, social media. Recognition is very important. Locally, the Decatur Rotary Club gives a scholarship to the Belmont AC valedictorians. Most of us in the community want to know who the top students are and want to recognize them, and we know that they deserve that recognition. Certainly, this should start at the school. In fact, the school should be leading the charge in getting recognition of the students, not shying away from it. They should be encouraging groups such as the Rotary Club, Psi Iota Psi, Optimists, etc., to offer scholarships to the top students. About 30 years ago, Belmont High School tried to stop giving the Val Sal Awards, and at a community meeting on the subject, it was pointed out that instead of only recognizing the valedictorian salutatorians, that there should be other levels of recognition, which led to their current level, award levels of magna cum laude, summa cum laude, and cum laude. Recognitions like this help the other top students who couldn't be a valedictorian salutatorian to be recognized for the level they achieved. And this was warmly accepted by the school and the community. We remember hearing right away some of the students were really glad this new type of recognition was there. But it all started with valedictorian and salutatorian recognition. It is essential that in this universal form of recognition remains in place here at Adams Central High School. And we certainly want this to stay a permanent part of the graduation and recognition of students' achievements. In academics, we are all part of the team. The one who gets the best score helps show the teacher is doing their job, and in many cases, the smartest students were given opportunities to help the other students in the study group, etc. So in the end, those students that could never be a Val or a Sal certainly want their friends who were smarter to be recognized. Many times, those students were the ones that helped them get through the tough class with a better grade than they could have done on their own. It's kind of like being an okay wrestler, but you got to wrestle the state champ every day in your wrestling room. Hardly ever get to wrestle a varsity match because he's in your weight class. But maybe because you were supporting him, he became a better wrestler. And he got the recognition as a state champ. And we all go to school to gain more knowledge, so hopefully we can do things in the world in a better way to help each other in life. In high school, recognizing students for their achievement is something that should be paramount in our system. We keep recognizing the other things that we mentioned above, and certainly this has been one of them that should keep going. The first thing in school should be academics. Recognition of academic achievements is paramount, being this first thing. It lets us know as a community just how our kids are stacking up in the world. The other recognitions are important, and no one's questioning any of that here, like athletics or speech or music, but they're all extracurricular. Let's keep academics in front by continuing to commit to VALSAL recognition and the levels of the cum laudes, and everything else will stay in place for recognizing our students. We believe this needs to continue to be Adams Central's policy. Any of our fantastic athletic teams and coaches get to recognize their team and individual after each season, and no one questions those. This community wants a VALSAL recognition, and this needs to stay a school system policy decided by the school board, who represent the local citizens and taxpayers. ACCS policy, this VALSAL recognition, just to finish the sentence here, is always a part of our graduation procedure, and it must be recognized as one of the more important things to do for our students. And thank you.
Right. Next, we're going to move on to our finance board action items. First, we have approval of our payment vouchers and our fund reports. I know you've had a chance to look at those. Any questions, anything for Dawn that we need to ask? Or Dawn, did you want to share anything with us?
Nothing different than the documents.
Okay. All right, and we need a motion to approve the payment vouchers and the fund reports.
I'll make the motion for the approval of payment vouchers and report.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have several donations, and we're going to take those all together. Several people to thank here. First, from Tractor Supply, we have 2 boxes of tire pressure gauges, tire repair kits, tube repair kits. We also have 2 pallets of veneer wood from Eckhart's Woodworking and scrap metal for welding from Wayne Metals, and I believe those are all going to Mr. Jones's different classes that he has. Next, we have an elementary book donation that they have given. I think it was a $300 value, if I have that number right, from the Adams County Soil and Water Conservation District. And lastly, we have some school supplies from Edward Jones and the Adams County Sheriff's Department. So a huge thank you to all those places who are helping out our kids in the classroom. Any questions, any clarifications on that? All right, we'll need a motion to approve the donations.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next, we have 3 contracts in letter C. Our first one is with Steeple, and on August 27th, we will have an executive session. A representative will be coming. This contract is for that budgeting help that they're going to do with us concerning Senate Bill 1 and what they see as the future for that for us, and helping us just kind of examine that closer. So that was the first contract there. Next one is our contract with Mr. Mendoza, and that's, I believe, pretty much the same as it when I looked through it as it has been. No changes there for Officer Mendoza. Last, we have use of our facilities for a youth wrestling tournament. I believe that is in November. I know you've had a chance to look at these, but I don't know if there's any questions or concerns about any of those. I believe that tournament is one that has happened in the past. It's a repeat thing, so. If everyone's had a chance to look at those contracts, is there a motion to approve the contracts?
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next, we have approval of some MOUs, and our first one is with Ball State, and this is for placements of student teachers. Next, we have Meridian Health Services, for mental health services that they would be providing some of our students. Nothing that I think is really new here. Hopefully you had a chance to look at those. Also a motion to approve those MOUs. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Next, we have approval of disposal. And this is for some strategic hubs, the Bluetooth hubs, and it's just because we had a system upgrade from my understanding, and we need to get rid of those since those have been replaced. Is there a motion to dispose of the hubs?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next our policy board action items. Our first one is our approval of the child nutrition program procurement plan from our cafeteria. I don't know, Jessica, did you have anything you wanted to say about that? I don't know that there's anything that needs to be added, but if you wanted to, I wanted you to have a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same as last year. There was nothing new, no changes that the government for us was still the same as last year's contract. Just obviously updating me as the new food service director and then changing the date. So this year and the next year. It looks the same.
All right, hopefully you all had a chance to look through that, but it did look very familiar from other years. Is there a motion to approve the plan? All in favor? Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, next we have several first reading of 24 different policies that have some of them small updates, which we will be discussing, but we are, I'm asking if there's approval to forego the reading of these, of each policy aloud, every word of those. So is there a motion for us to forego that first reading?
Make the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So now we are going to go through the policy review of these different ones and discuss changes on those. And Mr. Lehman, you're going to help us through that.
Gee, thanks.
Well, at least you said you would.
Okay. Usually we don't have quite this many at one time, but the package that came out with updates in April that we're now working on had 58 policies that were changed, which I was a superintendent for many years. I've never seen that many in one. So we're doing about half of them now, and get ready, come back in September. We'll do seconds on these and a whole batch of first readings in September. So the first one is 5500. It's student conduct. And this one is stepping out into the new world. The policy is under student conduct, but the change is about artificial intelligence. That is a term that I think we have all become aware of. And what we are trying to do in the policy is bring that into hopefully what would be obvious, that if you use artificial intelligence to create your homework and you submit that as yours, that's not an okay thing. But quite frankly, right now, there isn't anything written about that. So the changes here try to, because I don't know how any of you feel about artificial intelligence, but there are benefits to it. And the policy specifically states that using it for some research, using it to crunch some data, those sort of things. But it sets it up where students have to ask their teachers, can we use this to do this? And at the same time, saying that you may not submit your work, even though it was created by AI. So, and I will lump together three other policies. It'll maybe save us a little time, but because of this, a little farther down the list, you see 7540.03 and 7540.04. Those are the acceptable use policies that you've all seen. It puts in the acceptable use policy in using a computer. It addresses AI. And then 7540.09 is actually the policy that talks about artificial intelligence. And that in of itself is relatively short. So I will just read that. This is a brand new policy. It's entitled Artificial Intelligence. And it states, the school board recognizes the positive impact that artificial intelligence technology may have on the school corporation's educational program and operations. The superintendent is authorized to support the use of AI technology when its use is consistent with the corporation's missions, goals, and operational integrity. Any use of AI technology in the corporation's educational program or operations must be in accordance with state and federal law, as well as the policies I just mentioned. Violation of this policy may result in disciplinary consequences. Students may be disciplined, and as usual, up into suspension, possibly expulsion, and up to and including suspensions or termination of employment for staff. The administration will refer any illegal acts to law enforcement, because there are some laws against improperly using some of those things. So that's the actual artificial intelligence policy, and then it impacts all those others. I know that was a lot, and there won't be that much for me to say about all of these, so rest assured, you won't have to go through that much. But the board, I guess the big question is this a world we need to step into? Are we ready to step into it? And again, this is just first reading. We just need to hear thoughts and comments from the board and adjust as needed to bring back for second reading.
I think we have to address it because it's out there. You know, we have to have some kind of guidelines or else it's a free for all. And then there is no accountability if the student does something they're not supposed to do. You know, the teacher might say you can't use AI, but if they would back and say, well, it doesn't say that anywhere else, I think we have to have it somewhere. But it is also useful. Like I said, there are uses for it that are very positive. And I think part of that policy, if I remember correctly, even when it states, you know, about students citing when they use the AI, you know, what AI they use, just like they were using a source. So I think that's helpful.
Katie, are teachers like utilizing AI currently? So, I mean, are in some of the classes, or, you know what I mean, like, are they teaching responsible use of it, utilizing it in their classrooms?
Well, it will definitely address more in some of the computer courses like digital citizenship and things, and slowly integrated into classrooms as we become more comfortable with it ourselves. And then productive.
So we have a policy probably would be.
More questions, or I'll carry on?
I mean, the only thing I have to say is I know even my husband at work, like they're getting trained on AI and how to use it, so I definitely think it is helpful, and so to act like it, you know, doesn't exist and not allow it, I think we need policies on how we use it, because we don't want to shield the kids from something that if they go into the workforce, right, need to use and need to know about. All that.
And I want to emphasize, this is not about saying that it can't be used at all, because it can be a great tool. Okay, I'll jump back up to 5610. This is on student expulsions and suspensions. And the only change, the reason this is on the list is because they made some grammar updates and they had to change some policy references in this policy. But as I was reading through it, I found a couple of things that are not in our current policy that are in the Neola piece. One is a student also may be expelled when the student's legal settlement is not within the corporation's attendance area. So in other words, someone who is accepted as a transfer student, it's saying that they too could be expelled from school. That sentence is missing in our current policy. I have no idea if that was just an error or something got deleted that shouldn't have been deleted. I've worked in these policies enough to know that that can easily happen, but we really should have that sentence in there. And then down at the bottom of the policy, there is a reference to if a student is expelled, they have due process. And there's an expulsion hearing, and they have all the people in, and our administrators, I'm sure, have been part of those meetings. And there's a whole setup of due process. One of the things the board can do is, if somebody goes through that whole process and doesn't like being expelled, they can appeal to the board. I can tell you, I've not been in a school district where boards did that because of the whole due process that takes place prior to that. Our current policy says that you will, as a board. I don't know if you knew that, but it currently says that you will. And that doesn't mean that someone couldn't take legal channels and fight the expulsion. That's certainly an option to do. But because of all the due process that takes place going through the system, I don't know that that's a necessary piece. But again, that's up to the board. It's first reading, and I just need to know how or what to do in changing that, if I do.
I think both of those things need to be changed as you talked about. You need to have the opportunity to put in policy that, yes, you can expel any student. And
Again, it's not an official vote tonight. Just anything that comes up, let me know. Moving along. 6250. This one will be short. The state changed the date they count students. And now it's the same date that the federal government counts students. So this is kind of one of those, I guess if you have a question, it's too bad because we don't get to decide that. It's just what it is. And 8420, I don't think there'll be pushback on this, but we have a policy about being prepared for emergencies. We do all these drills today, and our local law enforcement do drills and practice in buildings and things like that. So we have the policy. What we're adding to the policy is that if somebody is doing a live drill, like our police force or whatever, I think most of you are aware they have guns that shoot beanbags or those kind of things. What the policy now says is if they're going to do that, you can't have students in the building. I think that makes perfectly good sense. And I would entertain questions if you have them, but I'm saying you don't want students around when they are doing that. Any questions on that? See, some of them are pretty quick. But I still have a whole stack here. Okay. The next one on the list is 5111. And for those of you that were at our July meeting, we did 5111. Well, there's another change for 5111. And this time, there's one change in this. Now, this policy is like 8 pages long. There's one change, and it changes the word student to out-of-state student. That's the only change in the policy this time around. Let me get it here. Sorry, there we go. The statement was students whose parents do not have legal settlement within the corporation, but who present evidence that they will move into the corporation within a short period of time may enroll in the schools of the corporation as tuition students. That has been changed to out-of-state students may do that instead of just any student. That's the only change this time around for 5111. Any questions on that? Okay, I think the next one will generate some questions. If you look at the board documents, there's a whole group that start with a 0. And those are how the board operates. And one thing that boards can do, because we have this kind of work to do that takes a lot of time, it's a mechanism where you can move through other parts of the agenda quicker. It's called a consent agenda. And what the policy states is that well, again, I just lost my internet. Anyway. Yeah. What it says is all those things we did at the beginning, the minutes, the bills, personnel, all the hirings, the technical corrections, which you've heard me talk about in the past, it only take one. Those can all be laid out on the agenda, and you can walk through all of them and then do one motion. That's what a consent agenda is. Because you've seen it when the board's going through a whole bunch of these things. Okay, is somebody going to make a motion? Well, yeah, it's my turn to make a motion, and then somebody seconds it, and then we wait for somebody else. If you do the consent agenda, then you move through all that quicker, and then we have more time to spend on this. So this is something new for this board. I'll be willing to answer questions. And that's coming. We got a long way to go.
So just the one, I guess the one thing to point out is that we can, or not necessarily know to ask because I've read it.
Yep.
We can pull out, a board member can pull out any item from the agenda
Yes.
to be voted on separately.
Yes.
Or
Anything that's in that consent agenda, if somebody has a little concern or they just don't understand something in it, you pull that one out, you do the consent agenda, and then you go back to that one item and do a motion on it. Good question.
I did go to South Adams And they do that, so it does look like it makes it a lot nicer just having one motion to, do the minutes and all the other things, the finance board action, and those types of things.
Any other questions?
We can still talk about those items, it's just that it's one motion.
Yes.
That's mainly,
Yes. Yeah, it doesn't mean that you won't stop at those items and have some conversation, but you can just keep moving through them and approve it all. Next, in that same section of policy, it's on executive sessions. When a board has an executive session, it is very specific what they can talk about. Like now, hiring a superintendent and dealing with all that. But they have now added, and this, I guess I would say this is just an indication of the world we live in. The board can now, at the executive session, talk about terrorist threats. And not have to do that in a public meeting. Which obviously is a good thing, it's just like our safety policies can be talked about in an executive session. Because you wouldn't want to tell the whole world about your safety plan. Any questions about that wonderful topic? Okay, moving on, we're going to do 3 of them at the same time. So you're going, oh. 1216, 3216, and 4216. Some of you are going, but there's something similar about those. They are. These policies have been referred to as dress and grooming. They're not changing any of the policies. But the word grooming has picked up a very negative connotation to it. So they are taking the word grooming out and putting it in appearance. So I'm guessing you're all going to probably be okay with that. All right. 1220. Timely. It's on the employment of the superintendent. And we have been talking about this one. And what does this look like? Because this is a really difficult one in a small school. Who can work under who can, we have husband and wife that work here at school. And how can you best make that statement and have a policy that still protects everybody? So that's what we've been focused on mostly in this area, is they call it the fraternization. What is allowed? And for me, I think it's, if you are a supervisor over somebody, that's a no-no. Okay? You can't hang out with your boss, all right? Date, have a relationship, that just doesn't work. Now, obviously, we have people that work under Mrs. Ish, and then we have people that work under Ms. McCullough. We have people that don't work under them. And so that's probably going to be okay. Some people oversee 4 or 5 employees. Some people oversee a whole bunch. The challenge becomes your superintendent oversees everybody. And so just trying to lay that out as we should. And it's definitely a sensitive topic. And it still has to have provision for husband and wife. That's why I think the big thing is, if you're a supervisor, you just need to be really cautious with that. So would any board member like to weigh in to that topic?
Yeah, when we were looking at the options, then could be considered from Neola. The first one I think is kind of confusing here, just because we are talking about the superintendent, but it puts in there corporation employees may date, develop friendships and relationships with other employees, both inside and outside the workplace, as long as their relationships, sorry, do not have a negative impact on their work or the work of others. So this one seems to be talking about corporation employees, and I don't know, to me, it seems appropriate to not include that. I mean, that can be within an employee situation, but we're talking about superintendent position, and I think that we're not headed in that direction for the person that's in that position.
I would agree.
Maybe
That's
I'm
a good,
misreading that.
I think that's a good point, because it does have a bit of confusion to it, because this is the superintendent employment policy, and that is a reference to corporation employees. I would agree, I don't think it fits in here. That's a good point. Any other comments or questions on that one? Okay, 2131. There is a policy that basically just lists things that we expect students to be able to do. And for whatever reason, they thought they should add some. Under communication and collaboration, there's been a whole list of things there. We are adding they should be able to give and receive constructive feedback. I think that's a good thing. They can apply empathetic listening skills to enhance their understanding of what the other person is saying. Sounds like a good thing. Can work as part of a team. Can exchange information and intentions in a way that is clear and understood by the intended audience. And then they made about 60 grammar changes in this policy. But it is simply, if you go to it sometime, it just lists things we like students to be able to do when they leave Adams Central. So don't know that there's a lot of conversation on that one, but I will pause for comments. They have a little technology issue here. Yeah, I think I've had way too many policies open. It's about like our minds. Okay, which one was that? 2221. We look at this one a lot because this policy is on curriculum. And so anytime the curriculum changes, a policy has to be updated. They've made a bunch of change again to personal finance. And that course that they've been moving it around different areas and locations. It's just the most recent update on a course in personal finance responsibility in high school for all students is expected to graduate in 2028 or after. So that's the most recent. Part of the new Indiana diploma. So that's the only change in 22-21. Comments? 2370.02, some of you may be familiar with what was called the Flex program. These changes, all they do, they take out provisions that have expired. So in other words, there was language that may be related through students who graduated prior to 2022 or something like that. Those pieces have expired, so they took them out. 2411. Always like when we're doing what they decide to make a policy. This is about guidance and counseling, and now it's been added, if the student is not progressing toward fulfillment of the graduation plan, the school counselor shall provide counseling services to advise the student of possible credit recovery options. In other words, how do you change that F to a passing grade? And services to help make progress toward graduation. If the student is not progressing toward fulfillment of the graduation plan due to failing to meet a post-secondary readiness competency, which is all part of these new diplomas, the school counselor shall meet with the teacher assigned to the student and talk about ways to help. And they will also meet with the parents. I'm guessing they do that, don't they? But it's just nice to be able to say, yes, that is what we do in terms of helping students. Questions there? (2421) is on career and technical education. Those are usually hands-on courses, but there are now virtual ways to take those courses with simulators and that. The state is now saying you can have a course where the kids actually take a career and tech ed course virtually. I'm not sure we're looking to do a lot of that, but the state has approved it, so we need to have that in there. (2623) is the policy on student assessment. And this is McCullough's area. It's all about the I-read and what to do when a student doesn't pass. You'll remember we just had an update here a little bit ago where they were allowed to now test more times in the summer. This outlines other options of how they can be brought up to speed. And I watched this summer as kids came and many more of them successfully passed that test. Regardless of what you think about state assessments, many more of those kids were able to get over the bar. So again, I don't know if there's a lot of questions about that. It's just part of what we need to do because the law has changed. 3120. Several years ago, they said you have to hold a public hearing on the teacher contract after you get it negotiated. But initially, that had to be a separate meeting. The state has shown a little wisdom and said, you know, you could do that public hearing when you're having another one of your board meetings. So now that's okay. I'm sure you're all in favor of that. One less meeting. (3142). This is not maybe very fun. This is about the cancellation of teacher contracts. This doesn't change any of the law. But they used to just list probationary teacher, professional teacher, and established teacher. Well, now they added the definitions of what makes you one of those teachers. So again, don't know if there's much to discuss about that one. And the last two in first reading, one is on medication. You can rest assured Donna has seen this and she's all on board, so you can be on board. And 6151 is about bad checks and uncollectible debts. And I have met with Dawn and she's all on board, so you can be all on board, because those are the people that know what happens in those worlds. So hopefully not too quick, but hopefully quick enough. That's our first readings. And now I will just go on. We've listed the next two as second reading because these have to do with the recognition. Because they were tabled, which means we need to bring them back tonight. That doesn't mean there needs to be action on them tonight. It can be tabled again, but since it was tabled, it needs to come forward again. So if you have questions or want to have further conversation about either of those, you can do that tonight.
Well, I think that they're 5430, 5451, the class strength and the student recognition. I know we've had a lot of discussion about them and we've heard from people about them. And just to kind of go back, and I know we've talked about this a lot, but when we talk about like what other schools are doing, not that it matters what other schools are doing, we can do whatever we want, but I guess I think I might just be a little bit confused or just not quite understanding, because I see like, we've got some schools that are doing the cum laude system, and then they're also putting the ranking on the transcript. And I might have misunderstood, but I kind of thought that when we were talking about this originally, it was said like we were trying to keep that class rank off the transcript. Maybe I misunderstood that along the way. And I'm just kind of wondering like why some of the schools around here still have that on there. And again, maybe that was just a misunderstanding at the time when we were talking about it. So you could just maybe help me out with that. I don't know if anybody else wondered that or not from some of the information we had.
Yeah, so we've compiled a list of some schools around here, and we can certainly go in more depth and get information from more schools directly from them. As you probably look to, when you look on schools' websites, sometimes it can be difficult to see exactly what's happening just from a website. So we've had conversations with some schools. We'd be happy to look into more area schools. A couple of things are done quite differently from school to school for various reasons. Different schools have different needs and different ways of doing things. So you'll see some do just the cum laude system. They set 3 levels of recognition, and that's the way they do recognition. And don't put any weight or any ranking on their transcripts. Some schools will do the cum laude system. They will have the rank on the transcripts. It's something the students can see, but it wouldn't be something that's recognized publicly, like the graduation or the pass award. So like public recognition would be on the cum laude system. The students can still see the ranking on their transcripts. Some schools do the cum laude system and still have balance out. Some schools do a top 10 with balance out. When we look at weighting, some schools don't do any weighting. Some schools have A pluses as a 4.33. Some schools have A pluses as a 4, just like an A. They give an A plus on the transcript, but it doesn't bump up that weight. Some schools will weight AP classes at 1, some at 0.5. Some not at all. Some will do dual credit at 1.5 or not at all. Some do all dual credit, some do priority dual credit. It's just the variance is pretty amazing. It's something that we could certainly compile a list for schools that you like if you want to see what different combinations and options are. But because the variance is so much, I would want to take more time though to make sure we're accurate in all of that information. Because I wouldn't want to mislead anything. So I would want a little more time with that one. But you're right, the variance is a lot.
When we were originally talking about it, and maybe we've kind of gone away from that, but were we saying here originally, we just like to, you were saying we just like to shift to that
So yes, the original proposal is to go to the cum laude system, and when we worked with teachers and guidance and setting those levels, looking at the summa cum laude being high enough where it would recognize a small portion of the students. When we looked at past students, it would have been somewhere between the last few graduating classes, 0 and 7. Like there's a lot of variance from cohort to cohort. Some of them would have, not had any people make it to that summa cum laude level. The largest was 7. And then on down. So you couldn't say a direct number, right? It's whoever achieves that, and then just leave it at that and not put it on. So that was the original proposal. But of course, there's multiple ways of doing things.
I guess, I think I've asked you guys this before, but just to make sure that everybody hears it too, but like, so is it going to cause a problem if we do a hybrid? So like, let's say we do the new levels, we still recognize like a valedictorian, salutatorian overall. Does that cause issues? Like, do you see that causing some issues?
I mean, I can let Megan or Counselor speak as well. I think that these issues that you see maybe are more behind the scenes and individual. And so I don't know that I would want to speak to each one. But as far as like the stress level that it can cause students, the weight that it has in decision making, the competition levels, the pressure it puts on classrooms, things like that, I think there is still going to have those things that we're trying to avoid, just in that reducing of that stress. The difference would be if you're looking at a summa cum laude, I know the number, right? I know the number. So my number, wherever we would put it, say we put it at 4.5, I know when I get there, I've got the highest honor. I would be the only one, maybe one of 5. I don't know how many of my classmates would get there too, but I'm not always maybe as concerned about what my classmates are taking. Are they getting different things? There's things we don't even think about as kids get older. As far as if you don't take a weighted class and I get an A+, that's 4.33, and I'm going for that 4.5, and A+ in regular class just dropped my GPA, right? If I just take maybe a study hall, it doesn't, honestly, because it doesn't affect it at all. I'm not having to weigh out the calculation of the effect on my GPA as heavily because I'm only going for 4.5 and I know it. I'm not trying to beat somebody. So I think that stress reducing would be different. But that's just, that would be one of the differences.
Who decides, AP classes are weighted. If I remember right, honors classes aren't. Who decides what gets weighted, how much it gets weighted? It seems like to me the last several years, whoever the valedictorian is the person having had to take the most AP classes. A kid might lose it just because he couldn't fit another AP class, or that AP class was canceled because there wasn't enough kids to sign up, so they lost their valedictorian, not because they performed badly, it's just because they had one less AP class than the other kid.
I'm not sure how that was originally. For as long as I can remember, our AP classes have been weighted at 1, right? So if I got a 4.33 A+ in a regular class, I get an A+ in an AP class, it's a 5.33. Who made that decision originally, I'm not sure. In the proposal, we had recommended also weighting our priority dual credit. So that would be the dual credit that's part of the Indiana College 430, which would be getting our students their freshman year of college done as a lump, like all together. Also at 0.5. Just because the rigor of this priority dual credit is also very high, right? So if I am in COM 114, I am taking a course that I would be taking my freshman year of college and not getting any weight for it at all compared to the APs. That was part of it too, is re-looking at that weighting system as well to decide what should and should not be weighted in what level.
It's common to weight AP classes at a higher rank just because they're internationally standardized. The curriculum is provided, the assessment is the same across the country, where dual credit can vary from institution to institution. And so that way, colleges hold AP and higher esteem than dual credit. It depends on, again, a lot of factors at that university, curriculum they're using, accreditation, are they a public school private student, how that can.
I just feel like now, if you're a kid and if that's what you're worried about, you wouldn't take an honors class at ACD. Because a regular English class, you get an A+, if you got an A in honors, you just lost class rank.
And that can be some of the challenge that we can sometimes try to overcome in making it a prerequisite, right? So if you want to take AP, your junior level in English, then maybe we can make a prerequisite, you got to take honors, because you need that rigor to prepare you for the rigor. But you're right, we've had that happen over the course of time, as you would know, where people are making decisions of that. That's not unusual, correct, for sure. Right, we try to do it, but you try, but there's always workarounds.
But then there's sometimes kids that are like, especially in education.
Can you speak briefly, I mean, I'm going into great detail, but just like the 7 seals, like there are 3 like avenues, but there's 7 seals available, and like what like the requirements are for those, like work-based learning, like different things like that. Can you speak briefly to that?
Yeah, there is the base credits that are the same for extras. Those are new outline different criteria categories, but they kind of center around that core mapping of science, social studies, computer science, education, and STEM. And then there are 6 different seal options that students can earn in tandem, multiple combinations. They can earn up to 3 seals as recognized by the state. So there are a huge variety of combinations that kids can earn. The enrollment seal focus on those who are college bound and meeting those minimum admission requirements, such as foreign language, advanced math, economics, where the standard wage rate is different. The employment seal focuses on career technical education, content graders, industry recognized certification, and then work-based learning components. The public service seal, or kind of that enrichment seal is the military option, again, focuses on community service. There's a few courses that they've recognized, as well as internships, or also some CTE courses in the public service realm, such as criminal justice, things like that. And so those components, and then again, mentorship piece is so many hours with a figure, either a military rep or again, a police officer, firefighter, things like that. And then each of those seals have an honors plus option, which you take those options and then add to it. The enrollment seal focuses on the Indiana College 430. The employment seal honors plus focuses on a federally recognized apprenticeship program or up to 650 hours of work-based learning experiences, more advanced career and technical certificates, maybe even associate degrees in those pathways. And then I don't quite remember what the military or public service plus seal is off the top of my head, but I believe it is just more.
There's components of there,
Yeah.
and there are other things too, if you don't have access to that. We'd have to figure out those other things, yeah.
But again, multiple seals.
I'm so sorry, I don't have any kids, my oldest is 1 and 8, so I haven't had to deal with this yet. But like, so when they have apprenticeships and all that, how does that go into their school? Is that all just a pass fail, you did a good job or you didn't, or are they graded from their apprentice?
Yeah, work-based
people?
learning is heavily standardized by the state with component pieces and standards that have to be met. Right now, within the diploma requirements, there's not 100% clear guidance on every issue of work-based learning and how it can be earned and where. But right now, our current students in order for the sophomore on up, there's different categories of work-based learning and how they're using it too. Are they using it for their bucket 2 fillers? Are they using it as elective credit? And it has to do with pertinence funding within that CTE realm. The number of hours earned in classroom, touch points are all standardized and that, like, you have to have plans that are outlined and uploaded to the state through that inter system. But a lot of it is connected to that career technical education courses. students can earn that federally recognized apprenticeship program. The precision machining program down at South Adams is our most complete one that we have available within our Area 18 co-op. So students can earn that recognition there, but they can earn work-based learning hours during the school day, nights, weekends, and also weekend hours with some good hours. But they have made changes. Summer hours can be earned in a number of different places. That job component that students can earn, and compile different jobs from different places. Like you can't work at McDonald's and at the machine shop. Depending on the category. It's a very complex and very individualized thing. Again, depending on what cohort you are, how you are filling your bucket free, and then again, there's that other layer with using the components. Probably more than you.
No, I want to
No
applaud,
worries. No worries.
yeah, no, I want to applaud each of you and the entire staff and the knowledge base that you have according to what you're trying to do that's best for not just one or two students, not the highest two, but I don't care if it's the student that's 101 in their class. You still want them to succeed just like we do any other ones. So with that being said, I'm going to ask some very general dumb questions. So I understand. I'm going to have to dumb it down for me to get there. I graduated with one diploma and one college degree. That's all I had to do. I didn't have to worry about anything else. So quickly for me, when you talk about the weighted averages, whether it's an AP course or a dual credit course, do we, does Adams Central set what that weighted average is for those? Okay. So my next question, and you're going to look at me and think I'm absolutely crazy. So what would happen if the AP class and the dual credit class both accepted through whatever college they may be going to, correct? What if those were weighted exactly the same and takes the pressure off any students about choosing whether to take an AP class or a dual class? And a student can choose according to which education path they're taking and which college they're going to.
I mean, there's some discussion. We've had lots of discussion with teachers and some of our focus groups on those weight systems. Because again, as long as I can remember, before I came onto guidance here, the AP has just been weighted at one system. And again, researching what other schools are doing, things across the country, like NACAC, which is the College Admissions Counseling Association, just talking about general localities as a whole. Again, the AP is just held in a higher standard because, again, it's so standardized across the country, internationally. And then looking at our dual credit, we have 8th grade students that have earned dual credit in Introduction to Engineering. Those standards and that rigor of that course is the same as our pre-calculus math course. And they're both dual credit, they're both college level courses, but is there a difference between those and should they be recognized differently? And many of our teachers and parents in our focus groups do feel that priority dual credit math and social studies should be held in higher regards because of the standards and those things that students have to meet. I think there would become a lot of CTE dual credit. Again, a lot of those are more like completion once you're in the course. If you complete the paperwork and get signed up, return it versus and the transferability of those courses too. A lot of them, some of that CTE part doesn't transfer outside of the associate degree as tax maybe. Like, Purdue Engineering is not going to accept Introduction to Engineering Design if they earn it at 8th grade level. So again, should those courses be rated the same. And we've also had discussions with, an A+ in weight training, is that held in the same regard as a C+ in our advanced biology classes? And talking to some past students that are staff members now that when they were in high school and we didn't have the weight system in place, talking about their ranks and their GPAs and how, just their concerns with some of their peers and how they were ranked in the course level that they took. So if they were looking at some of those things as well.
Okay, so don't hate me for this next question, Megan. Because again,
Like I said, I like the discussion. It's important that people learn and understand
your
all the
knowledge.
details behind
Yeah.
all of our requirements and some of the decisions that we make.
So when you talk about not weighting them the same, are we putting, and going back to we don't feel like it's fair to put pressure on kids.
Mhm.
I mean, life puts pressure on kids. There's no way around it. Whether you teach it at home, whether we teach it in the classroom, whether they get on the job training, whether they get in college, it doesn't matter. But my question is when you talk about the way we weight them, are we putting the pressure on the kids as a school system? I mean, I feel like we're putting it on them.
So the way hopefully the idea behind it would be to relieve some of that pressure. Because if I would be taking in, let's take something like English 11. So I could choose to take English 11, just regular English 11 my junior year, or I could take our AP English course. The idea would be if I would get a B+ in the AP course, which would obviously hurt my GPA, but that would be equal to the A+ in the regular course. So the idea behind reading it is hopefully to relieve a little bit of that pressure. So students who are used to getting A's and A+ know this is a really challenging course because I'm getting prepared for a really challenging test. My grades may not be quite where they always would be normally, but it's okay because we recognize they're harder and we weigh that up a little bit. So the idea behind it is it should hopefully relieve some of that pressure, not necessarily increase it.
You're gonna hate me.
No, keep going. Let's see.
That's everybody gets a trophy. So. I mean, what's to say that kid that takes the AP English, doesn't fail a test in regular English in the 11th grade and ends up getting a B+ in regular English? For me, I guess I don't see the difference. We're separating the kid. We're trying to compare apples to oranges. I guess this is the way I'm understanding it. So please continue to educate me in doing it. If the AP class is the same accreditation as a dual credit class, then it takes away the avenue of trying to figure out how much each one's weighted.
So some of,
So,
go ahead.
okay, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Let me finish, because if I don't, I'll forget it.
No.
That's my problem. I'm trying to write down things as fast as I can so I don't forget it. So I guess my question is, I'm going back to, if an AP class is weighted the same as a dual credit class, and those students that want to pick whatever college they want to go to, or whatever thing they want to do, they know what those classes are going to be if they're going somewhere where they're going. Most kids are making those decisions typically before they graduate. I mean, we announce whether they're going to graduate, what they're going to do. So a lot of the things are already being made. So those students are talking about all of those things well before we get to the graduation and doing. So if we're putting those pressure on those kids as a school system, to say you have to pick this or that because this one's weighted more than what that one's weighted, but yet either one of them can get you into college, either one of them can get you a degree. But yet if someone's striving to be the 1 or 2 in the class and doing it, we're automatically keeping them from taking those classes. I guess that's what I'm trying to understand. Because we're keeping them from saying, I'd love to take that class, but doggone it, if I do that, I'm not going to be the valedictorian or salutatorian or 3rd in my class, 5th in my class, 10th, whatever that number may be.
And I think that's our concern is we want people to make choices based on what they want to take, not necessarily about how it's going to hit their GPA and their ranking, which is where we maybe would circle back to having that commodity system would allow more choice. Because even a 4.5 doesn't mean you take every AP class that we offer and you get an A+ in all of them. It allows for some more flexibility in that. So that's what we're trying to avoid. I agree with you. We want to offer choice to our students where they can make those decisions, not just based on GPA weighting or anything else.
But we're setting that parameter though, right? By weighting the classes? I mean, if one's worth 1 and one's worth a half.
Can I
Yeah,
say
that's
something maybe to help?
I kind of want to chime in on Ben's comments. Ben, I appreciate you trying to help these folks figure it out. But I'm not going to try to help figure it out. As far as how to educate the kids, I'll leave that up to you. But I mean, at some level, I think we're lowering the standard a little bit. There are kids that want to be number 1. There are kids that want to be great. There are kids that push and strive for that. But then I get it. You're trying to recognize accomplishment at every level. And accomplishment is at every level. I mean, the kid that is ranked 30th in his class may be thrilled with that. And
be a construction worker like me, right? Like, I mean, whatever. So,
They're all important up.
right, that's what I'm saying. Like, so I get the part about the accomplishments at every level, and we want to recognize that, but I don't see it parallel and like taking that cum laude, that valedictory and salutatory and out of the mix. Like, how serious are we about the hybrid type scenarios here? Are we looking at that? Are we wanting to improve that, or are we trying to go straight with the cum laude?
So I think just to make sure, like 100% celebrating student recognition will always be my goal, and a very high level of excellence. I have had the 12 in the pursuit of excellence. There is no finish line outside of my office ever since I become principal. Like, I never think we're gonna. I never think. I always think we can do better. So I would not want this to seem all that excellence isn't expected. The cum laude system sets a very high bar, So if you think about a regular A plus is a 4.33. Right now, we are saying a 4.5 is going to be the summa cum laude. That means you've got to take AP classes, right? You've got to take something to bump that up. Getting straight A pluses in regular classes wouldn't hit that. It is a very high bar. So I don't want to just mislead people to think like, oh, we're going to recognize 80 people at different levels. We are trying to set bars that are attainable, right? Attainable, like, don't want to be impossible, thus the, like, not stress, but just we know where we're at. Like, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm not in competition necessarily. Not just competition on anything like working harder, like for class, I don't have to match you, right? Class, I don't have to match you. So I just want to clear that up. Truly, I can say there is no one who values, I shouldn't say no one. I value excellence very highly. So, and I'm happy to talk about that more too. But then secondly, when we talk about more options, certainly we can. And this is a discussion, this is a conversation. I also, with excellence, also really value transparency, which is why, like, really from the beginning, have tried very hard to involve people and be transparent. So if we would always want to do that. I don't want anyone to feel like it's not transparent, it's not discussion. Happily go back, give us a list of questions. We've started a document trying to keep everything in one place, but it was getting a little messy, I think, for all of us. Adding to that document whatever we need. Because we would want to have a good, transparent conversation too. So whatever you would ask us to find or do, we want to keep that conversation going when we get to a point where you would all feel comfortable.
And I think one thing, like I said before, I want the best kids and all that, but like I said, the last several years, I think it goes back to the kid that had the best study. I really think the last several years on the valedictorian, this kid got one more AP class, or this kid got this kid didn't take honors, and this kid did. It's been this, I feel like it's been more the scheduling than who actually went to smart.
I can't speak for any of that, but I think my struggle of just trying to figure out what would be best for our people is just, I know kids that would be motivated by the rank, and I know kids that would be motivated by this as well. So I think that's the hardest struggle, and where I keep going back and forth, because some kids won't be motivated as much possibly by the cum laude system as they would rank, but then vice versa, so I guess that's just from the struggle going back and forth with what is the best mix or how we do it.
Well, as you can see from other schools, there's multiple ways of doing it, right? And no school's out to hurt kids. So it's not that there aren't multiple ways of doing things that we can look at. It's just from our experience that we've seen so far and talking with teachers and staff members and guidance members, this seems like the best path forward. But certainly not saying it's the only path forward.
I guess that's kind of where I land on it too. Pardon the bad analogy, but like, this is somewhat like politics. Like, come back with something that fits the bill, fits more kids. It is more, structured to to do what you want it to do. I guess I'll rely on you guys to figure that out and bring it back. That's my opinion. I don't know that I would support just approving as is, with any other considerations. I'll say that.
I would probably be in that same boat. I'd be all in the same boat. And again, I don't want you to feel like I think that we're doing bad for students, because I trust 1,000% what our administration does in teaching our kids, and helping raise our kids in this school system. There's not a doubt in my mind. We do a good job. I'm like that. I hate to just throw something away that we've been doing just to say it's better. Show me it's better. I guess, how do I, and maybe you are showing me and I'm just too dumb to understand it in doing it, but again, I guess I would hate to see a kid that's striving to be number one in whatever it is they do, curricular or extracurricular, not be recognized for that. I guess that's my only holdup like that. This is still that system of being able to recognize those top peak performers, those champions. That's where I have to get right with the bill in my mind, I guess, too. Is that change is not always bad. I just probably have to be coached more to help maybe understand it better.
And I think it's a tradition that we are used to, and that's our mindset of many of us, how it would be and what we would be expecting at graduation, and I think that's important to Adams overall. I mean, I think tradition is why a lot of people want to send their kids to Adams Central. Honestly, I think has a lot to do with it. So I don't want to cut anyone off who wants to say any more about this topic. So does anybody have any last? I think, it's listed here at second reading. We tabled it before. I guess I want to hear from all of you. I mean, is there a motion to table this? That's kind of the feeling I'm getting, but it's,
I think tabling one more time is maybe the right decision.
If that's Doug's motion, I'll second.
I'll make that motion, I guess.
And I'll second.
There you go.
all right. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, we will just table this. And we will revisit it, and all of us, I think, have a responsibility here because they are doing a lot of work and legwork here. If we have questions, we need to get them to, Katie and Megan, so that they can get information for us that helps us determine what we want to do moving forward and what we would be comfortable with. So I think our responsibility is to make sure that we're communicating well with them and not just, letting this go, but it's a decision that I know something needs to be made as a decision, so you guys can go forward with things as well. So we need to be on top of that if you have questions. And if you want me to compile them and put them all together, I can do that too. So if you want to get them to me, that's fine. If you want to go direct, that's fine too. And it sounds like you'll continue to put that information in one document. I think that document today that you sent was good to have it all in one place because I was having problems finding it in different places. So, okay, thank you.
Katie, is there timelines or things that are associated with this that are
2 meetings ago,
No,
stuff we're oblivious to?
we're proposing this change with who will be our current freshmen, right? So they don't even have their first grade because we're at a semester grade until the end of the first semester. So, and they're all in their classes right now. Honestly, you just don't want to go too far down the line because, like I say, every single class can make a difference. But I think that I feel comfortable until then because then the decision will be made before any of them get grades at least.
All right. Okay, we are going to move on to D, the approval of the handbooks. This one should be easy. We have a classified handbook and a transportation handbook, and there were no changes. So hopefully you remember reading over this before, or you refreshed your memory because there weren't any changes, so, is there a motion to approve the handbooks?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Next, we have approval of our overnight and out-of-state trips. We have some athletic ones. We'll take these all together, but I'm going to list them off. We have a JV varsity volleyball game, Parkway High School on August 26th. We have a middle school volleyball game, September 4th at Parkway. Cross-country team at Terre Haute High School, and that's October 4th and 5th. We have JV varsity boys basketball at Parkway, January 3rd. High school wrestling state finals to be determined February 19th through 22nd, 2026. We've got JV softball at Crestview High School, May 11th. And then after athletics, moving on to our FFA. A few of those as well, 3 of those. FFA, the National Dairy Judging, Harrisburg Fairgrounds, Pennsylvania, in September 12th through 16th. We have the FFA State Soils Contest, Huntington University, October 16th through 18th. We have the FFA National Convention at Indianapolis, October 29th through November 1st. Any questions or clarifications on any of those? Okay, if not, we'll need a motion to approve the overnight and the out-of-state trips.
I'll make that motion to approve.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have personnel board action items. We are going to go A through D on these, unless anyone has any and wants to speak up now. We're going to do all of these with one motion, so you can stop me if you need to or want to. We have the approval of the status quo contracts. That is just the teacher contract until we have the other one at a later date. We have approval of termination of Mr. Rick Tebow, maintenance and grounds. We have approval of these resignations for these 3 individuals. Mrs. Nicole Strack was in 5th grade, Mr. Matt Leary, middle school, high school science, Ms. Zoe Wolf, middle school cheer coach. We have approvals to hire of several people. We have Ms. Taylor Street in kindergarten, Mrs. Liz Davis in 5th grade, Ms. Taylor Thomas, elementary special needs paraprofessional, Ms. Cambry Tig, and part-time latchkey coordinator, Mr. Richard Bailey, high school biology teacher, Ms. Kathy McCollum, special education aide, Ms. Jasmine Muniz, special ed aide, Ms. Ellie Greiger, bus aide, and Ms. Gabby Landis, middle school cross-country coach. So that's a lot of people there. Any questions, concerns before there's a motion?
I'll make the motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. And for those who left us, those resignations, we do want to thank them for serving at Adams Central and wish them the best of their, whatever they're moving on to. Oh, sorry, Liz. You're welcome. We're glad to have you in 5th grade. All right. Next, we have our approval of our coaches roster, which would have some of those additions in there. Any concerns, questions on that? All right, is there a motion to approve the coaches roster?
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? Good job. Motion carried. All right, we're going to move on to our administrative reports. We will start with elementary, Mrs. McCullough.
Many people aren't in school work that staff is actually I especially want to thank our team and crew. They work so hard to make sure that the school is ready, and it's often not seen, and so I want them to know how much we appreciate that. The leadership teams that work in the summer and make sure that the kids are rolled out. I think Katie and Megan's conversation tonight just goes to show how much conversation happens on the backside of decision that the public may not know, and those go on. And so, thanks to everyone who put in that work. I want to thank our community, because tonight is back to school night. I talked with many teachers before I came over, and most classrooms had 1 or 0 community members, families that did not show up. And so thank you to the community for showing up to meet the teacher, for our staff who came in to set up the room, have all of the things prepared so the students would feel welcome coming in tonight. It was great to see the kids come back. Some were shy and timid, and others were racing down the hall to meet their new teacher. The fear of lockers in 4th grade was big, but they were accomplishing it. You know, we've all been in that position. But the teachers set it up. It's the little things on the elementary side, getting our kindergartners from that end to the other end, that mile journey that it feels like to them, you know, having people in place. So all those decisions that have been made, thanks to everyone who put all that together, because it truly does take a village to make this thing work. As we go into the 25-26 year, we're going to continue looking at the science of reading and how students learn, so that our students are getting that strong foundational education, so that they are prepared to make their career and college choices as they get older, and we've given them their best foot forward from the beginning. So our work in those discussions will continue in the math, and especially in math of literacy areas. So thank you to the community, to our teachers and staff, and I can't wait to get children in here on Thursday, and this building will then be what it's supposed to be. So looking forward to that.
Thank you.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. I do love back to school, getting everybody in and the new energy of a brand new year. So really just looking, maybe I'll start with what this week is going to look like. Well, last week at registration, the best way I can get a count is by talking to Gibby's after pictures, just to see how many pictures did we take, because that'll give you a good idea of how many kids we had. And 525. Which is a pretty amazing number of registration when you look at high school and middle schoolers and their families who come in, get into the building, get their schedules, get their pictures, and are ready to come back to school. So we just appreciate everyone's participation there. Teachers started to come back, were back at school yesterday, and today we're working together to get ready. Tomorrow we're looking forward to our first waiver day, which is where teachers are going to be in training all day long. We're bringing somebody in to do our training, which we really appreciate, having that day with some outside experts so that we can all learn and grow together is what continually helps us grow, and then be able to serve our students and our community better. So we're excited for that tomorrow. And then the best day of all, Thursday, when we get our students back, we are looking forward to that. Everybody's ready to get them in the building. Back to school night with a little taste of it with our 6th graders, but we are just really looking forward to that. We've not been to the 400 wing recently. It is amazing. They did such a good job, Todd. You did an awesome job with that. The classrooms look amazing. The space is beautiful, and so that's been really neat for this school year too. But lots of people to thank that were here today. So I do appreciate all the support. And once again, if anyone ever needs anything, has any questions, want to talk things through, I'm always happy to meet and talk. So shoot me an email, call the school, we'll set something up, and I'd love to speak with you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this summer was extremely short and went very fast. We're ready to go, and first few days are always hectic, but we survived them. I want to give a shout out to my crews, my maintenance guys, my custodians, my part-time summer help. They're the ones that make it happen. So I just try to keep peace among them and put out fires. So on the construction side of things, both the 400 wing and HVAC on the elementary side are pretty much wrapping up. We're waiting on some furniture and some room numbers and stuff like that in 400 and elementary. We're waiting on a few diffusers and some control work, but it's for the most part done and everything's working. The pool, we're finally making some progress. We got the gutters done last week. They turned out good. The painting is finally done. Right now, they're grouting the tile in the pool, getting that all ready so we can start filling. Dancer started this week in the epoxy flooring in the locker rooms. They'll get that done when we move out to the pool. When that's done, we finally start filling the pool, starting up all the pool equipment. So we're still looking at an October finish date, so we're back on schedule and look forward to getting that one done.
Okay, Mr. Lehman.
Yeah, a few things. First of all, I want to thank the board. I don't know how many of you really realize what happened at the very first beginning of this meeting. They approved the minutes for 7 meetings since the end of June. And they are busy doing their tasks. And I appreciate them doing that. I typically make some comments, and there's been past comments. I don't know that I need to say any more about Kumwad's setup, okay? Discussion's great. I don't need to weigh into that at this point. And I do want to, in response to the Smiths from last month, but also from some current statements this month, I would just raise my hand and say, I am that accountability person. You know, when you said, who's that person? That's me. And as I've said before, I can't share the details, but I can sit here tonight and tell you that people have been held accountable over the course of the last several months in what I've had to do and work through. So it does fall right here. All right, that's the person who does it. With that being said, we've started a conversation about budget and how it's not looking very good because of the things the state is doing. They're playing shell games with the education fund. They tell you they're giving you more money, but they put more things into the education fund that you have to pay for. And that usually doesn't end up being more money. We all know Senate Bill 1, operations, is changing that, and that could be substantial. There is a third fund called debt service, where you pay your mortgage. And that one we do control. And I know we've been here a long time, but I too was a teacher, and I can't resist a whiteboard and a pen. And I was math, so I love graphs. This is what we received from you in debt service this year. That's what we're receiving. Now, just because of the way it is built out, and it's actually built out way past this, but we just want to look at these 3. What that means is we will get less revenue. Well, this is the piece we get to control. We're already going to get less about every place else. So the question becomes, not asking for any more money. Okay, they've already taken away a bunch of money. We just would like to keep having what we have so far. So what that looks like is the school would essentially borrow money for 1 year. So this year, we would borrow money and pay it this year, and this year we'd borrow money, pay it. And, you know, some people get nervous about the large numbers in schools. It's about $720,000. Again, we don't want that additional money. We're just saying we don't want to lose that money. Because you know what? We could buy buses. We could do an HVAC. And that money would be well spent. I can assure you of that. So I bring this up to the board tonight. We have met, Dawn and I, with financial people, and we're meeting more and more of them. And no decisions tonight, all right? But if we're gonna go down this road, we have to have public hearings, okay? Because it's all transparent. We talked about transparency. But we have to post that we're gonna have a hearing. So my question tonight from the board, and I would like this to be a motion. Do you give Dawn and I permission to at least set up the hearings so we can have more conversation? That doesn't mean we'll do any of this. That's the whole point of having the hearing. And again, not asking for more, we just, 2/3 of our funds are getting hit hard. We can control this one and still do really valuable things for Adams Center. So I would entertain questions if you have any at all, and I know we don't even know what all this looks like. People say, well, what exactly would we buy? Well, I bet you Todd could fill that list in a heartbeat. But we don't even have that, and we don't even have to decide that. This is the best part. We don't have to decide that up front. We can simply write this, that we will spend it on buses and equipment and facilities and renovations, which then we have the flexibility to fix a roof or whatever that looks like. And even though these would be individual, we would do the public input for all three of them. And then I asked him today, I said, but what if we get here and we don't want to do it? Not a problem, you just don't do anything. You don't feel you can. So this is a lot to think about. This is going to be a 2 or 3 month process. Tonight, it's just, are you comfortable enough in thinking about this to say, well, let's at least put our toe in the water and see what comes of it. So that's my math lesson for the day. I would entertain questions if you have some.
I'll maybe speak up and maybe for those that, with Doug coming on, maybe not familiarized with what that is. This was talk that we were having prior to tonight. In doing it. So knowing that in that 2026 time period that we could look at restructuring the debt. And so it's, we probably have forgotten about it though, with some other things happening around the school system. So I don't know, I have questions on it. I'll wait to make sure no one else has any questions. If there are, I'm going to make a motion.
I don't have questions. I think it, with all the unknowns, it's good to see
It's a backup plan.
what our possibilities are,
When we do it
whatever.
now, we got to explore.
Yeah, and that's tonight is just simply giving us permission to have those hearings and allow us to explore it in detail.
I'm sorry, did I say it? I was
You
sorry.
said you were-
Oh, then I will. Yes,
Okay.
I do make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
That is,
Okay. Motion carries.
Dawn and I will go to work.
Do you have anything else?
I don't have anything else. I'm in bed.
All right, just so that, an update as far as public update, we are working on a contract, actually, our school attorney, Audra, is working on a possible contract with one of our superintendent candidates. At this point in time, that's all we can say. there's a lot of legalities here, and then we will have to post a contract, and then there's just a lot of steps that have to be followed, but we do have someone that Audra is working with just to give you that update. And I just hope that we have a great start to the school year. Everybody, please keep our kids and our staff in your prayers so that we can kick this school year off and have a good one. That's all I had to say. Anybody else on the board?
Correct, but can I just confirm one thing, because it's on our website like this, but the cost for middle school, high school still is the same, right? Because of pool for now, but possibly we can look at once all of that stuff.
So, yeah, for now, we're just
Okay.
keeping it just the same, there's still construction. We can have conversations later if we would like to.
Okay, just wanted to
Yeah.
confirm that. I had a few
No,
questions,
it's
and I
good
was
for
like, it
everybody
still
to know.
shows
It's
that
still the
on
same.
here,
It's
so-
still the same.
Yeah, the September board meeting is a board visitation day, an all-day meeting. And so our board meeting will be after school at 3:15, and that's on September 9th. Can I just get one question about the cum laude thing?
Yeah.
Maybe you said that. And I know it'll be different each year, but like last difference. How many students were 4.0 and under and not?
So that is information we can sure put on this document. It takes a minute for us to do it because you've got to go through, you can't, if my understanding, is that you can't just pull. But what I have, right, so we would just need to be able to go into, permanent files to gather this information. We can definitely work on that though, so we could just see where it would hit, maybe if it would have been different. So let's work on that. We'll get it.
What was your question?
I just wondered how many kids were at a 4.0 or higher, but weren't in the top, but were not
We're
in the
not.
top 10. Because that would cover that if we do,
Yeah, I bet there's some things. we
or a
can do.
hybrid, I mean,
Yeah.
we still would have, but then if there were 5 that weren't, they still,
Let's get some numbers from the past few years and see what we're looking at. We'll grab it.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Make that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thanks everyone for coming tonight.